Well, happy Friday morning to you. You're just loving that music, aren't you? It's Dattitude, episode number 198. It is Friday, December the 15th. We are 10 days away from Christmas. And what are the New Orleans Saints going to give us as a present? We're going to talk about it here with Larry Holder of The Athletic. My old friend, what is going on? Have you finished your Christmas shopping? That is the question of the morning.
No, I have not. But that's about par for the course. That's like what the weekend before Christmas is usually the time when you get it all done. So my wife does not like that idea. She wants it all done. But
neither does mine. Yep, I am Mr. Procrastinator, and that's why my wife, at some point in the last few years, has decided she's just taking it over. Like, she just buys everything now, and then she lets me know about it. She lets me know that she bought everything, like many times throughout the course of the Christmas season, and there you go. So it is what it is.
At least they stick with us, because it's basically to that point. But hey,
yeah, I mean, people who listen to Dattitude and think that I'm miserable, imagine living with me. I mean, it's man. So the question of the day is there you see in the headline, but we're going to talk about all kinds of things this morning. We're going to condense everything into 30 minutes. Larry and I usually like to talk for about 45, 50 minutes. Today we're going to condense it into 30, 35 minutes. I also have a longer monologue than usual that I've already recorded. We have two things to do here in the Saints section, and that is, one, to talk about the Saints and the Giants, and the question above, the Saints can't beat Tommy DeVito, Danny DeVito, whatever you want to call him. You can forget about it. I mean, that's our pawn of the day. But we're also going to talk about Saints fans out there wanting their team to lose and whether it's a good idea and if it accomplishes anything. And we are going to reference Brandon Staley at some point in the show, I promise you. So those are some things we're going to talk about. As Uncle Big Nick says, living with me could be a reality show. There is zero question that is true. But, Larry, before we get into the Giants part of it, I want to talk about the last part first. And, I spent a lot of time this morning talking about what losing does for your team. What's your opinion of this?
Well, you could certainly be in worse spots. And the thing is, for the Saints right now, everything is actually still in front of them. I mean, you could look at the 4 games they have left. They've all become toss-ups. So it actually means something. Like, this game matters.
Right.
So I think it's a double, I've been saying it for a bunch of weeks. It depends if you're a glass half full, glass half empty kind of a person. Like, do you want the Saints to be like the Chargers, where they totally gave up? I mean, they gave up. And I'm surprised, even though it's 10:03 Pacific, that Brandon Staley still has a job.
Well, it would be 10:03 Central. It's 8:03 Pacific.
That's what tomato, potato, whatever. Same thing. Sure.
Other than that,
other than my failed time zone conversion,
Rummel math, baby.
Exactly. But you don't want to be the Chargers, and they have a quarterback that they're just squandering. I mean, I know Justin Herbert's been banged up the last couple of years, but you have a quarterback in place. It reminds me a little bit of when the Saints were kind of wasting Drew Brees away, but at least they didn't quit. Like, they didn't just quit on them, and so that's where they are. Like, the Saints, you see frustration from the players, and I know there's frustration in the fan base, but they still won last week by 22 points, regardless of how it looked, and
regardless of fighting and all that stuff.
Exactly. That's part of what I'm talking about, how it looks. But still, they have themselves in a position to still win a division, get into the playoffs. And that's, to me, I think if you're a Saints fan, me, I don't win or lose with this team. It's just the nature of the job. But if you're a Saints fan, I would still think that this would be what you still want them to be in a race, trying to get to the playoffs. I mean, you want that for your team, even though you might not feel like they're the best team in the NFC or really a viable Super Bowl contender at this point.
Proof positive, I think, that this team hasn't quit, because I know a lot of fans out there have talked about whether it's quit. By the way, if you would like to comment on this, you're more than welcome to. Just leave a comment in the comment stream. I'll see it here. We will put it on the screen, and whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And actually, now I think if you leave a comment on Twitter, that also shows up. We'll find out. You can try it. But I think piece of proof number one that they haven't quit is you go back 2 games ago to the Lions game. You're down 21 points to the Detroit Lions, and early in the game, and they're looking on the sideline. They look like the Chargers looked last night. Heads down. We stink. We're going to get bombed today. But yet they came back and fought. And so I think that's proof that they have not quit on this team. It's proof that maybe they do have more heart than a lot of us give them credit for, that they're going out and fighting. And so regardless of what anyone thinks, I think this team is still trying to win, still trying their damnedest.
I agree. I really do. And look, that's something that we talk about coaching staff, and are they buying into what's being sold? And in some part, I guess so. Like I guess they are. Now, you could see it, and we all saw it last week. I mean, there's certainly some frustration offensively, and it certainly surrounds what's happening at quarterback, and whether the offensive line is trusting what Derek Carr is doing or vice versa. I mean, we've seen Michael Thomas outwardly, however he wants to put it. I mean, he dumped his Twitter page just because he knows what he did, and he's trying to play coy. But we all knew he was throwing shots at Derek Carr.
There were actually people defending Michael Thomas, and the defense was, well, he's not wrong. Well, you could say things that aren't wrong that are going to get you fired all the time. You don't say that stuff in the middle of a game when you're supposed to be, I get you're hurt, but you're not supposed to be on Twitter talking bad about the people you work with. I can imagine how that would go over if I were in the middle of a work day. I just started tweeting stuff about my boss and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's go over well.
No, I don't think I'll be tweeting at The Athletic and just going to town. I don't think that would go timely. Or go in like our Slack.
Getting paid every other week. They
go in our Slack and just start ripping people. I don't think that, and that's internally, much less externally.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would fly. And so I think that look, Michael Thomas might not ever play for the Saints again. I mean, that's at this point, I'm assuming that that's not going to happen.
No, they're not paying him.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying they're not. Why would he come back this year? Like, I don't think. I think
no reason.
Yeah, because he's on IR. He could, but I don't think that. I think they're going to be like, let's let this go away. But still, like, we're seeing pieces like Taysom Hill's trying to fight to get back on the field, like Rashid Shaheed, like he could be back. Like, so there's actually pieces there. And for what it's worth, look, Derek Carr wants to play hurt.
Right.
Like, so, I mean,
he's giving it all.
Guy actually cares,
right,
regardless of what you say. So
there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So, like, that's there. At least that is there.
T-Mom is telling us hello. We appreciate the love from all of our people watching. And again, if you want to leave a comment or have a question for Larry or I, leave it in the comment stream and we'll talk about it. But here's my thing. And when I talk about this, and it kind of bothers me, I guess, because I've been on Dennis Allen the last few weeks a ton. I question a lot of things that this team has done. They're 6-7. There might be the most underachieving team in the league. But when you look at what happened to the Chargers last night in 63-7, you got dead man walking and Brandon Staley. And if, I play this in my monologue. So when we're done here, you guys want to listen to what I had to say. I actually had a half-an-hour monologue this morning going through this. And you can search for Dattitude wherever you get your podcast. But if you listen to Brandon Staley's tone, dead man walking, I mean, I've been on him as much as I've been on anyone for over the past 3 years. I can't stand analytics coaches. To me, Staley is a defensive-minded coach, and he hasn't done a damn thing. And how he survived last year, I have no idea. But that being said, listening to him last night actually felt awful for the guy. I mean, he's still a human being, and people are rooting for coaches to get fired. And what's it going to prove? What is it going to do? People say, Saints fans say, it can't get any worse than it is right now. But I disagree. I think it can get worse. So all losing does is frustrate you in the near term, because you can't say, even if you're rooting for your team, you're not really rooting for your team to lose. You might, in the general sense, want your team to lose so they'll fire the coach. But when you're watching the game in the moment, you can't tell me you're actually rooting for your team to lose, that you're not frustrated if Derek Carr throws a pick six. You're not laughing and happy about it. You're pissed off in the moment. So, I mean, I just don't understand what rooting for your team to lose actually does. And I'd be happy to hear from anyone who is rooting for the Saints to lose.
Well, sometimes you laugh because otherwise you just cry. So it's like the laughter of, oh my gosh, like you see the pick six or something wild like that, and you're just like, huh, like you can't help but laugh because you're frustrated with it. But no, I mean, the thing is that if you see and look at the landscape of the NFL, and look, I think the Saints are the most underachieving team because they had a winnable division.
Completely
they
agree.
have the pieces, and they're more underachieving than the Chargers because I didn't expect the Chargers to win the AFC West.
Right.
So the Saints are I would say for me the most underachieving team because they had the best quarterback going in, best pieces. Like they should be winning this division, and they're not. They should be winning games. They should, and they haven't. And so that's, but still, they've actually still positioned themselves to stay in this thing. And look, I remember probably leading up to the Lions game, I remember us talking about it, and I say, all right, well, if the Saints lose this game, which I think a lot of people assume they would, even before the season started, you'd lose to Detroit.
Right.
But still, you're 5-7, and then you looked at the next two games. You said Carolina, you can win that game, and they did handily by the end. And the Giants, this is a very winnable game. I mean, Giants playing better, more of a toss-up, but winnable game. Then you get to 7-7, and I've said it, and I've said it time and time again that 10 was the ceiling, and and last year
10's definitely the ceiling now. It's officially the ceiling.
Officially the ceiling. But still, like, that's what I always thought, and maybe they would fall below it, but somewhere, between I figured somewhere between 8 and 10 wins, and that's where they are, and no matter how it's been. So, but yeah, like you said, Chargers, they're in an off situation. Panthers, you think Saints are bad? Give me a break.
Commanders.
Panthers don't even have the first round pick that's going to Chicago, number one. They got a quarterback that they probably don't have a bunch of faith in. Pieces are all over the map. They don't have a coach. Like the Patriots are in a heap.
Commanders.
The Commanders, they're about to have wholesale changes with coaching staff, new ownership. Look, so the Bears are a weird spot. Like, you're better off than, I don't know, 10, 12 teams right now.
Here's the interesting thing, though, and I do get it, because if you look at, as we transition into the Giants, and I found the Giants interesting because, 3 weeks ago, their fans in New York, everything was so awful, and I talk about how I like to watch Boomer and Gio in the morning and their New York show, and it's New York centric, although they talk about a lot of other things as well, but everything was wrong with the world. The Jets stink. Zach Wilson can't do this. The Giants suck. They got some guy named DeVito, quarterback, and then now, here we are 3 weeks later. Zach Wilson and the Jets won last week, beat the Texans, had a big week, but the Giants come back on Monday night, and this dude named DeVito, and people going, whoa, and I know you talking about it, and we're joking about, if the Saints can't win, you can forget about it, and, we're making all these jokes, but Giants fans are happy again. They're 5-8. It just goes to show you what a few wins can do to change the outlook. 3 wins in a row. They're completely different feeling about the Giants right now.
Yeah, and I think the Giants, they at least see that this team has the ability to rattle off wins. And again, this is I talk about glass half full, glass half empty, double-edged sword here. You got Tommy DeVito, and he's winning games. In the last 3 games, he's put up passer ratings north of 100. Guess who's never done that? The guy they paid a ton of money this past offseason. Daniel Jones has never put up 3 consecutive games of 100 passer rating or better. So that you're wondering, is there going to be some kind of quarterback controversy? I guess it depends on how the season ends, but still, it at least shows that, like, Brian Daboll is not some fool who's just like can't coach all of a sudden. Like, he didn't get dumb. Like, I think he overachieved last year with the pieces that he has. I still think the pieces that they have, they need better personnel. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just think they need better personnel. So, but that's a different story here than what the Saints.
What's funny,
Like, they got
Larry?
good personnel.
What's funny is I bet if you polled the people watching this show right now, God love you. Thank you for watching the show. I'm not blasting you. Don't take this the wrong way. But I guarantee you, if you polled the people watching this show and asked them who is a better quarterback, who they would rather have as their quarterback, Derek Carr or Tommy DeVito, I guarantee you at least half, if not more than half, would say Tommy DeVito. And if you think that, my friends, you're just a hater. Like, there's a difference between being realistic and saying the Saints need to make changes and whatever. But if you think Tommy DeVito is a better quarterback than Derek Carr, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, I haven't watched Tommy DeVito nearly as extensively as I've watched Derek Carr. But you're talking about, it depends on what you're talking about right now or as your quarterback of the future.
You can pick as any way you want it. You can analyze this any way you want. If you think Tommy DeVito now, tomorrow, next week, 8 years from now, Derek Carr will be 43. So probably not 8 years from now, whatever he would be. But so maybe then. But Tommy DeVito will be doing the same thing 8 years from now Derek Carr is doing, hanging out with his family.
Well, the family's giving away veal cutlets in the parking lot at MetLife Stadium. Cutlets. So delicious. At least it'll be a well-fed crowd. But it's like Derek Carr, I think Saints fans should look at it in the sense that, look, Tommy DeVito was terrible to start, and then all of a sudden they've kind of got some lightning in a bottle. But if you're looking at situations, the Giants, what do? I mean, what if Tommy DeVito starts winning?
You can't keep him as your starting quarterback.
Why not?
You just can't. He was a terrible quarterback in college, and there's a reason. He's just he's lightning in a bottle. I mean, we're going to get to our predictions in a little bit, but this dude cannot continue. Maybe this week he can continue it, but long term, there's no shot this dude continues it. Chris Reed, he wants to know if we can trade their contracts too. If you could trade contracts, then you might have a chance. If someone would take Derek Carr's contract, then they probably would be willing to do it, but no one's going to take that contract.
Any GM doing that would be fired.
Right. Charles Broom, and this is spot on. This is the comment of the day because I talk about something similar in my monologue. Whenever he's disgusted with the Saints, as he is right now, he thinks of sitting in that 90-degree sun at Tulane Stadium. Now, not quite that old because I was a little kid when they played at Tulane Stadium. Watching them lose to Atlanta something like 62-7, which is the record, I believe. But I'm not sure that we're as down on them as they are now. I agree. I mean, I think people are more down on this team, and I kind of liken this team to the end of the Mora days going into the Ditka days. I mean, I think that's where this team is right now. That's why I say enjoy this as much as you can, because this last little playoff run, it might be the last one for a while. Because if you look at the future of this team, I know we always talk about them being salary cap strapped, but they're not going to be more salary cap strapped than any other offseason than they're going to be this offseason. They're going to have to cut veterans. They're going to have to make very unpopular moves, if there are any popular moves with this team. But I'm talking about they're going to have some really tough decisions, and at the same time, they're not going to be able to bring anyone in. It's just the way that it is. So, I mean, enjoy this ride is my point, because this might be the last playoff run this team has for 4 or 5 years. Next year is going to be bad, man. And I mean bad.
I think it's hard for Saints fan to enjoy the ride because the ride has been disappointing. That is why Saints fans are more frustrated now with this team and the way it's doing than other years when it's been 7-9. This team should have been better. They had the schedule laid out, and it's not like one of these teams that they played was suddenly super great. They had the schedule that everyone thought it was going to be easy. It should have been easy, and it still is. like that, and they
It's a
have
once in a
just
lifetime kind of schedule.
yes, and they've just squandered it. The division
get
is
it.
off. That is why people are so bent, and rightfully so. Like that, they have just squandered.
I'm not bashing anyone. I get why people are upset completely, totally. I'm behind you now. I mean, I know in the beginning that the first half of the season maybe I gave you a little grief. I get why people are upset, and they rightfully so. But at the same time, you still have to. If losing isn't going to accomplish anything, you have to enjoy this ride. And the reason why I'm saying this because you'll regret it one day. You're like, if this team wins, and they still have an excellent chance, they are 2-1 to win the division right now. I think that's a good value. I think there's a good chance that they win the division still. Look at the other two teams. I think they're better than the other two teams. Whether it happens that way, I don't know. Whoever goes to the playoffs is going to get their ass whipped by Dallas. It is what it is.
Philly.
Either way. Dallas, I mean, it's probably going to be Dallas because Philly's got an easier schedule to win the division. But, I mean, either way, enjoy this last playoff run. And you look at it and you think about all those days and you go back. And the reason why I liken this team to the end of the Mora days and going in, because it's kind of going to be the real end of an era, right? If Dennis Allen does get fired, which I don't think is going to happen, by the way, but if he does get fired, it's kind of the end. They're going to cut ties with this entire group. They're going to start over. That's where this team is going to go. They're going to start over at some point. I'm not saying they should or shouldn't, but no matter who's coaching this team next year, it's going to be ugly. They're not going to have the personnel to win next year. The schedule is going to be a whole lot harder. I think you're talking about like a 4-win kind of team. So if you ever wanted to see your team in the playoffs, now's the time because it might not happen again for a while.
I don't think Saints fans should be disappointed if the Saints go on a run and make the playoffs. I mean, that's what you're ultimately looking for. And I think if they would do that, it means they're going to win at least 3 of the next 4 games. They would, they'll either finish 10-7 or 9-8. And I think that when you look at it, it is the route that expectation-wise had. Like, I think people who thought 11-6 and this, like, I think they were overvaluing what they had.
Yeah.
So I think I've said it from as soon as even they got Derek Carr. I said, look, he's good enough to get you to the playoffs, and then you see what happens. And then this is where they are. Like, if they get to the playoffs, it would be probably in my mind just good enough to get there, and then you see what happens. And so, I just think it's the route that it's taken. Right, it beats being the Chargers. The route that you have taken to get there is going to be muddy. You thought they should have won some games, they didn't, but still, like, it's the path that they could be mediocre, a little bit better than mediocre in my eyes. They were never going to be elite. They were never going to be, in my mind, like a top 10 NFL team.
Right.
I would have them as be like a top between 12 and 16 was what I always thought.
Right. I mean, if they win 2 more games, let's say they were 8-5 right now instead of 6-7, it wouldn't change their trajectory at all. The only difference is we know that they would win the division, and we still know that they would go and get their ass whipped by Dallas. That's just who it is. So really, in the grand scheme of things, 2 more wins doesn't change anything. Mark is being a tongue-in-cheek, I'm sure, when he asked Dennis Allen will be back next year confirmed. I mean, no one, let's be real. Come on, Mark. I mean, there's nothing confirmed. It's not confirmed that I'm going to wake up tomorrow. So, no, the answer is no. It's not confirmed. But I think there's a much better than not chance that Dennis Allen will be the coach of this team next year. Team Mom is asking, the Saints lose Sunday. Is this ride over? Yeah. I mean, if they lose this week, the ride's over, but not tomorrow. It's not going to be over Monday. They're not going to fire him Monday. But that would be one of the ways to get him fired, because you get to 6-8. You're probably not going to win next week against the Rams. Then you're talking about 6-9, and then it's really over. So maybe. So there you go. Root for him or not. We got to get into this week's game and the analysis of this week's game, because I do want to talk about the NFL Week 15, and I know we're getting close. Terrence says he's praying for me.
All I know is, look, every game the Saints have left.
Wake up.
Yeah, every game the Saints have left is a toss-up game. Every single one of them now. Like, Giants are a toss-up.
This is not a toss-up game. They're a 6-point favorite.
I'm calling it a toss-up game.
Okay, well, we'll get to our predictions. The last thing that we do on Fridays is make our prediction. But just for this game, just the analysis before we get to the prediction part, Larry, you look at these Giants. And there's a reason why for most of the year, for a lot of the year, they've been the worst team in the NFL. They can't stop. They can't pass the ball. I don't care about Tommy Cutlets or whatever or whoever's throwing. It doesn't make a difference. They can't pass the ball. They can't stop the run. They're 31st in total offense. They're 26th in total defense. And really, the only legitimate players in my mind that this team even has is Saquon Barkley and Kayvon Thibodeau.
Well, one can rush the passer and one can run the ball. And if the Saints continue to be porous on the run defense, they're going to use Barkley. I mean, even with DeVito playing better than maybe anyone anticipated, they're still going to be using Saquon Barkley. There's no doubt about that. I'm wondering if Darren Waller comes back. They're letting him practice. I mean,
right.
The Saints have struggled against a tight end. He hasn't done what you thought, but I mean, quarterback play has been brutal anyway.
Darren Waller doesn't look like he gives a damn.
Well, he's getting paid, so he probably and he's like, "What have I gotten into? I got traded here. I'm leaving." Like he's had he's been banged up, and I could argue that that's not my Giants argument. They're probably arguing that, but look, I just feel like the Saints, if they can run the football, I mean, we actually saw Jamal Williams running the ball. Like he averaged less than 4 yards a carry, like 3.7 or so, but he was in there. And obviously that was partially because Taysom Hill wasn't in there, but if they can run the ball and not have to have Derek Carr throw the ball, I mean, obviously you are at some point, but have the run, be run oriented.
Will Derek Carr be healthier this week?
Well, he's off the injury report, right? So, he's going to play. I mean, he's going to start, that.
Yeah.
But like if they have some sort of pulse offensively, I think it'll be. And here's the thing, again, if the Saints, the Superdome crowd if they want this season to keep going, they need to make it tough for DeVito.
And if you wanted to go to a game, but you couldn't afford it, here's your chance. You get a ticket online for like $8, and I'm not exaggerating. Uncle Big Nick wants to know, why does Carr give his linemen gifts? They haven't been very good. There's no doubt about that.
Well, they probably also feel the same way about him. So,
well, obviously, because he gets sacked. Made a point of this. He gets sacked, and no one even goes to help him pick him up. Jeff Duncan made that point the other day. Like no one went to help pick him up. They just let him lay there. Like, we don't care if you're dead or not. Whatever. And then he's fighting with Eric McCoy. Who knows? All right. Look, we are going to come back to this in less than 5 minutes, I promise, because the last thing we do is make predictions on Saints Giants. But before we get there are some marquee matchups I want to talk about. We got about a minute to a minute and a half on each one of these games before we get back to the Saints. Bucks, Packers, big game in the fact that this affects the NFC South standings. By the way, the Falcons are playing the Panthers this week, and the Panthers, they're only a 3-point underdog. So you want to talk about toss-ups, the odds makers think that game is a toss-up. That's crazy. Do you think, by the way, before we get to this, do you think Falcons Panthers is a toss-up at all? Would you give
No, I don't care. I don't care what you think about the Falcons. I mean, the Panthers have quit. No, I can't believe it's only that.
You heard it here first. Upset of the week. The Panthers beat the Falcons.
Well, I picked the Panthers to beat the Saints last week. That didn't work, did it?
Yeah. Well, that's my upset of the week. All right, Bucks, Packers. Look, the Packers were due for a letdown. I didn't think they would lose in New York last week. But on a Monday night, a short week, they're going back home. Lambeau is actually going to be nice this weekend. It's for Lambeau standards in December. It's going to be like 40 degrees and sunny with little wind. So the Buccaneers are getting a favorite. I kind of like the Bucks here. I know they're 3.5-point underdogs, but I put them in a teaser leg, which means I'm getting 9.5. But I think the Bucks can win this game.
I picked Tampa straight up. I think the Packers, you look at them running the football. A.J. Dillon has a broken thumb. Aaron Jones, he might play, but he's coming off injury, so they're a little questionable at running back. Christian Watson, I wouldn't expect him to play, so you lose that weapon offensively. And I think just Tampa is kind of just being gritty, and I think this is a game where Mike Evans, he was definitely limited last game. I think he can get back on track. Rashard White's been playing pretty decent. And like I said, Baker Mayfield, he keeps – talk about a guy trying. That guy is really trying.
Yeah, and I think the Bucks actually have the best value in the division right now at plus. They're like plus 180, so you can lay down a $10 bet on them to win 18 to win the division. I was wrong about them. I said they had no chance, just like 2 weeks ago. I think they do, and if they win this game, they certainly do, because they'll have a lot riding on that Saints Bucks game in Tampa in 2 weeks. I believe on New Year's Eve. That could be a very interesting game as we go down the line. All right, Cowboys and Bills. This might be the market. Not might be. It is the marquee matchup of the week. You got the Bills starting to ride hot a little bit. Josh Allen starting to play a little bit better with Joe Brady leading the way. The Cowboys, some people think they're the second best team in football.
I'm going Bills straight up. I think that they're starting to kind of rally together, as weird as it sounds. I think they're actually rallying around McDermott after the crazy comments came out last week. Even though it's a 4-year-old issue, but I think they've actually rallied around him. And the offense, you're seeing more James Cook involved, which is weird because you're seeing less Stephon Diggs, but they're able to kind of grind this thing out. And I think Dallas is due for a kind of late season slip up after a big win last week. So I think Josh Allen, I think they can get it done in Buffalo. So, yep, I'm going Bills straight up.
Sometimes I think you read my picks column. I know you don't, but sometimes I think you read my picks column.
Sorry, Jim, I don't.
I know, just to pick against me because I'm completely the other way. What do the Cowboys do best? The Cowboys force turnovers. What does Josh Allen do best? He gives it to the other team. I mean, look, the Bills have turned the ball over in 9 consecutive games, and even though they've been better, I think that turning the ball over against the Dallas team is a recipe for disaster. Their turnover ratio is plus 15 in their 10 wins this year, and in their 3 losses, they have only collected 1 combined turnover. I think Buffalo turns the ball over. I think the Cowboys win this game, and I'm not saying they're going to win the NFC East because I think they have just too tough of a schedule down the stretch, but I think that Cowboys 49ers is going to be one hell of an NFC Championship game. Let's just say that.
I would love to see that game. I mean, I think the 3 best teams in the NFL are in the NFC now. So, but look, I just think Buffalo backs against the wall. They see that they actually have a chance to win this division because Miami is a little shakier than maybe you thought. And so I think that, I guess
could be
different.
Could be. I just think that, people talk about Buffalo needs the game, like quote unquote, like blood. Well, so do the Cowboys. I mean, trust me, even if they can't get the 1 seed, getting the 2 seed matters because you want to make it as easy a road as possible. And you also want to make sure that you're at home as long as possible. And if you can't get the 1 seed, the way you assure yourself you're at least home until the NFC Championship game is to be the 2 seed.
And Dallas has been great at home this year.
Absolutely. And it makes a big difference. They know that. I think they will play their best road game of the year this Sunday. All right. Before we get back to the Saints and make our Saints-Giants prediction, Ravens, Jags real quickly on this. Trevor Lawrence just doesn't look right to me. I'll go first on this one. I think that high ankle sprains, there's a reason why they take so long to heal. He shouldn't have been playing last week. I think that hurts him. To me, that hurts Jacksonville going forward. Just get the dude healthy, win the division, and have him as healthy as possible for the playoffs. But no, Doug Peterson's throwing him in there, and I think the Ravens win this one going away.
Well, Jacksonville was very fortunate that the rest of the division lost around them last week. So, but I'm with you. I'm taking the Ravens. I like the way Lamar Jackson's playing. He's also and they're getting it done with different pieces without Mark Andrews. You see an Odell Beckham being a little bit more involved, Zay Flowers. Right. We know they can run the football with a bunch of different pieces. And yeah, I think Jacksonville, Lawrence needs to get on the mend, but now they're kind of figuring, well, we got to keep playing if we want to, because you got the Texans and the Colts kind of biting at your heels. But yeah, I think the Ravens, I think they keep this thing going. And yeah, I had them winning.
And I think that should be an interesting. Can the Ravens turn things around in the playoffs? Again, we're a few weeks away from talking about that, but they have not been very good in the playoffs. It'd be interesting to see if Lamar Jackson can actually get things going this year. All right, back to the Saints and our final, the grand finale of the show, Giants, Saints. It's Tommy Cutlets coming to the Dome. The Saints are 6-point favorites. What say you, Larry Holder?
Giants. I'm not picking the Saints. I don't trust them. Giants are rolling. Give me DeVito. Give me Paulie, Italian Stallion. Rocky Balboa, even though it's not even in Philadelphia. They're from New York. Whatever. I don't care. I'm tired of picking the Saints. That's really my only reasoning. I'm tired of picking them, so I'm picking the Giants.
Normally I'd call you like a wahoo right here or something along those lines, but I can't give any grief to anyone who picks against the Saints right now.
I mean, the Giants have won 3 in a row. I feel like they got something going, and I don't trust that the Dome is going to make life as miserable.
I don't think the Dome's going to have any influence whatsoever. I think the only influence that they have is that the Giants have to play away from home. Other than that, I don't think there's any crowd influence whatsoever. The crowd's been embarrassing.
Yeah, like I have some logic. I am not picking them just totally out of spite, but I just feel like the Saints, like
I got you.
Last week's game, I'm like, they won by 22, but it's like, okay, they just kind of like, I don't know, stumbled into winning by 22 against an off team. I think the Giants are going to be fired up and know they have a chance. And I feel like that the Saints, they're too erratic. And, I'm going Giants. Hey.
I think T is hoping you're right because T's saying they want the season to be over. It's always who that. I get it, I guess. I don't know. Can we get Jim's seats next to Tommy? My seats are way up there in the press box. Like they're literally. You want to? If there was such a thing as real nosebleed, I mean, Larry knows you don't get much higher than you get in the Superdome press box. That's where I'll be on Sunday. Yeah, and I'll be wearing something like this with a long sleeve shirt underneath. My analysis and my handicap is this. Look, I get the whole, and I went into the week thinking maybe this is the week that I picked the Saints against an inferior opponent. I mean, against the Saints against an inferior opponent, but I can't. I mean, when you look at these numbers and a handicap and analysis, I try to pull myself out of having any human feeling when you pick these games. And the number that sticks out at me, the two numbers that stick out at me, Giants passing offense, 32. Saints passing defense, 7. I mean, the Giants are not going to be able to throw the ball. I mean, Tommy Cutlets is going to get ripped. I mean, I just don't see. I think the Saints defense will be inspired. Now, Barkley and his over-under, Vegas only thinks he's going to have like 61 rushing yards. So if Saquon Barkley only has 61 rushing yards, I don't see how the Giants win this game. And that's where I'm at. I think the Saints win. I think they win big. I think when I say win big, I think they cover. But I can tell you right now, spoiler alert, we're not doing a show next week, so we can just go ahead and say this. I don't see how the Saints win in Los Angeles next week.
I'm picking the Rams. I don't care.
I'm definitely picking the Rams.
I don't care.
Yeah, win, lose, draw, whatever the Saints do this week. And so again, we don't have a show next week because I'm going on vacation. I'm very little mini vacation. The next time Larry and I will be on together is on Thursday, December the 28th. I'm sorry, Wednesday, December the 27th. I can tell you that I'm picking the Rams next week.
Me too.
I don't care what the Saints do. They cannot beat the Rams in LA. That's just my opinion. But we'll see about that. Larry, thank you, my friend. I won't see you before then, so Merry Christmas.
You too, to you and yours, and let's see if we don't have to forget about it. We'll have to.
We don't want to forget about it. Tommy.
Like I hope for the viewers and the listeners that I'm wrong. I've lost faith in the Saints. Like
I get it. I get it, but I'm just trying to do this as taking my personal feelings out of it as much as it's hard to do. But I think the Saints are that much better than the Giants. I think they will show up, and I actually think Derek Carr's going to have it.
Like they should win. Like they should.
Yeah.
I just don't trust.
I think it's going to be a big Alvin Kamara, and Taysom's going to come back and have a good game as well.
That's
what I think.
That's the key.
Look at that Russian. Yeah, your Russian defense. They can't stop the run either. They're 29th against the run. So, and Kayvon Thibodeau to me is a big disappointment. But we'll see. Anyway, all right, programming note again. The next live show we will have will be Wednesday, December the 27th. I am taking a mini break, and we will see you then. Again, go catch my monologue wherever you get your podcast. Search for Dattitude, and we will also be on. I'll be on Monday with my dime, win, lose, or draw. Tell you what I think. 2 more tape shows, 1 more live show. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and I hope we're all happy. I mean, I don't know that we will be, but
I'll be happy.
All right. One way or the other, you'll be happy. Everyone have a great weekend. We'll talk to you later.